My name is Dr. King Schultz. Like yourself, Marshal, I'm a servant of the court. The man lying dead in the dirt, who the good people of Daughtry saw fit to elect as their sheriff, who went by the name of Bill Sharp, is actually a wanted outlaw by the name of Willard Peck, with a price on his head of $200. Now, that's $200 dead or alive.
The hell you say?
I'm aware this is probably disconcerting news, but I'm willing to wager this man was elected sheriff sometime in the past 2 years. I know this because 3 years ago, he was rustling cattle from the B.C. Corrigan Cattle Company of Lubbock, Texas. Now, this is a warrant made out by Circuit Court Judge Henry Allen Laudermilk of Austin, Texas. You're encouraged to wire him. He'll back up who I am and who your dear departed sheriff was. In other words, Marshal, you owe me $200.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Film Bros Podcast. My name is Isaiah Lucas, and I am joined by my co-hosts.
Abraham.
And Nick.
How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm all right. I'm a little tired, but I'm good.
Yeah, wild day today, but
Wild. Well, yeah.
there was a break-in. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
That's a way to
definitely.
start a morning, huh?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Your window broken in. Not a lot of fun. Anyways.
We strive in adversity.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
Yeah.
good to hear. Yeah, good day,
Hot
too.
day today. It was a
Yeah,
hot day.
it was hot. It's 101, but I'm getting thankful for the weeks ahead because it's getting down to, like, the 80s.
Yes.
I'm like, couldn't come sooner.
Yeah.
I need it. I need it.
I'm melting
Like-
in my house.
like,
It's not
I
even-
I appreciate the summer every now and then,
Hmm.
but then the cold comes around and I'm like, it's just so much better.
I don't appreciate the summer at all.
Like,
And no one has brought me a convincing enough argument.
yeah.
I just love how you support cold because you always say,
Always.
I always stick my hand out to feel something, and that stuck with me when you said that.
Yes. I do. I love the cold. I don't know why. I just do.
Have you ever taken a polar plunge?
No, I want to, though.
Do you?
I want to.
I
know
think
it'll hurt
I think I
so
would
bad.
dip my toes in and then I'm out.
Like
You
it
can't
act-
do that. You can't just dip your toes.
No,
No,
you gotta
like
do the
I
whole
would
thing.
feel
You
it and
gotta
I
go
couldn't.
all-
I would not be able to come in. That's
you don't
so
feel
cold.
it. You don't feel it. You strip down to your chones and then you just go in.
Yeah.
You just dunk in.
I did that like in the winter at like a lake.
Okay, so you've tried it.
But you're talking about like an ice bath?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've never done like an ice bath.
but like a absolutely freezing cold water.
yeah.
See,
I jumped in the
like me and
pool
my
when it's, like,
me and my
December.
cousins would like on Christmas we would go to our grandparents and jump in our pool on like Christmas Day.
I've done that once. I jumped in the pool in December.
that is so cool. That's like the ultimate. Like you are more than your body. You know what I mean? Like you are more powerful
I'm in
than
control.
your body. Yes, I am in control. You're telling your body no. Like you're hurting. You want to get out. Too bad.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And it's got to be like a amazing feeling.
It feels good.
I
It's a
don't
rush
know.
for sure.
Yeah, I know
Like,
people.
I don't even like the hot tub.
Hot tubs are all right. It's more about the company rather than the. You're just sitting there stewing.
Yeah.
I'd rather. Nah.
Yeah, you're boiling, bro.
I want to do the same thing with a sauna. Because like saunas I heard are like uncomfortable as well, but it's more or less about like enduring and like
And just sitting there
sweating. Like
dripping.
just sweating in there. You know?
That sounds like torture.
I was sweating so much. I was sweating today, dude. I took my break in the car, and I was just chilling there, and the sun was beaming on me. But I don't want to be bothered on my break, so I
Mm.
took it in the car. And like 2 minutes in, I'm sweating. And the thought of a sauna.
Could you call me crazy, but low key I like like going from like a really cool climate, like let's say like you're in an air conditioned building or something like that, and then going and sitting in your car and like baking in the heat.
I
for a
have
little bit.
experienced this. It feels like kind of like a hug.
Yeah.
Like you sit in your car and you're like,
You're just like, oh, this feels good.
feels so good.
And then,
Yes.
and then
I hear
after
you.
a couple minutes, you're like, all right, I got to turn this thing on. It's getting hot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have experienced this.
Yeah. I can only imagine the heat that the people that live in the movie that we are going to talk about
Dude.
deal with, especially with the humidity and everything as well.
absolutely. Just
In Mississippi.
beating down heat, walking. That's
Yeah.
all you're doing in chains.
Yeah. I can't imagine it. I mean, I haven't been to like the South. Although like when I went to Oklahoma, they tried to say that they are the South, but that's middle America right there.
That's the middle of America.
Yeah, kind
Yeah.
of is.
Yeah, it's not the South as much as they want to claim it is. But that's like the only time I've ever really felt humidity was when I went to Oklahoma, and like it sucked.
I just
Coming from an area where there's like no humidity, you know?
Yeah, we're dry heat.
Yeah.
I think Mexico's pretty humid. Like where my family's from.
Okay.
And that I can't. Oh my gosh. If you
Yeah.
step out and you just want to take another shower, you feel like you gotta take another shower.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt that way whenever I was in Oklahoma. I remember we went to Oklahoma City and Tulsa to kind of just, sightsee and look at like a couple of, historical things that my dad wanted to see and, eat and just kind of explore the city. And I remember that morning we took a shower and I felt like fresh and clean. Walked out that door and it felt like somebody just grabbed this like lukewarm rag and just went whoosh, like across my face and back.
That sounds
And I was just like,
So comfortable.
dude, like let's get in the car, turn the AC on immediately because this sucks. Yeah.
Yeah, I have never experienced that, and I don't want to.
Yeah. It's tough.
Mm-hmm.
But, if you live there, you get used to it and whatnot. But
Yeah, and unfortunately these people were forced to live there.
yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Forced in more ways than one, too.
Yeah.
Seriously. And if you couldn't tell by the title of today's episode, we're going to be talking about the 2012 film Django Unchained. It was written and directed by Quentin Tarantino. And I don't know about you guys, but this was my second time watching the film. And I had so much fun with it. Like, I remember watching it the first time and liking it, but it had been so long since I had seen the movie. So there were parts that I forgot.
Mm-hmm.
And watching it again, I was just mesmerized by what was going on screen and rooting for Django the entire time and just wanting to see him get his satisfaction in the end. And it was a blast. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, I had a measurable amount of fun like with the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It was incredibly satisfying. And at the end of it, I was just like, why did I take so long to rewatch this thing, dude? Like, I sit here and I follow these cinema pages that always post about freaking Leonardo DiCaprio cutting his damn hand on the thing, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's a really good scene. But I never take into consideration like the other 2 hours of the film,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and being able to sit down and rewatch this thing was awesome. And I had a really fun time with it, I have to say.
All right.
So,
This is my first watch.
That's
And-
gotta be an experience.
And it's an insane experience. I'm ready for another rewatch. I want to rewatch it again just because I had to watch it in two parts first, unfortunately. But it wasn't like that big of a gap. But I want, this movie's insane.
yeah.
And I'm saying this up front, this might be my favorite Quentin Tarantino film.
I wouldn't blame you.
Because
I'm being
this
honest.
movie is insane.
Yeah.
But it's so good.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I love about it, that I'll kind of build off of your point here, is that like this movie is your stereotypical Western, but it's done in Quentin Tarantino fashion.
Mm-hmm.
It's got the outlandishness. It's got the violence. It's got the things that happen in like I'm thinking of like the Gimp scene in Pulp Fiction. Where like that happens and you're like, what the hell is going on? But then, Django has something similar where there's straight up a castration scene.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the heck, dude? Like, what's happening right now? This is insane.
Yep.
And like, he is somehow able to just make it all work.
Mhm.
And it's just incredible storytelling and writing
Yeah,
and
it's
direction from him.
simultaneously like unserious and also very, very serious.
Yeah.
Just with how it handles some of the dialogue. I
Yeah.
just think it's incredibly funny, but then it's like we're watching these horrendous acts take place. You're just like, this is history. Like this stuff happened.
Yeah.
And then you get a scene where he's freaking getting blown up with dynamite. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's just the funniest of scenes mixed in with the like harshest of conditions,
Yeah.
which I think makes this a super interesting film to
Yeah.
watch.
Yeah,
And-
it is a I don't think there's anything to compare it to.
No.
Like this is a
One of
film
one.
that stands on its own,
Mhm.
and it really has its own identity. And I think that that's something that is so incredibly unique about Quentin Tarantino's films is that most of his movies have that.
Mhm.
Like they have the ability to stand on their own, and you can tell when you've watched a couple of his films that this has got to be by him. You know, or this makes sense that this is one of his movies.
Yeah.
It's got violence and a lot of blood and gore,
Yeah.
feet, like,
Man.
you know, like great music,
Great dialogue.
great dialogue,
Great characters.
yeah, incredibly written characters that
Yeah.
feel like real and lived in,
Mm-hmm.
and like incredible cinematography as well.
Always.
Like, especially here, I really love the homages to old westerns with like the quick zoom
Zoom
ins
in,
and
dude,
zoom outs and
It
stuff.
caught
like,
me off guard, and I was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah,
Because the way it zooms in is very like, and it goes like, whoopsh.
it's accurate is what it is, man. To quote DJ Khaled,
Yeah,
like
accurate.
it is like it amazes me every time because I'm always like, man, how accurate do you have to be with that camera to like be at this like huge wide shot and then zoom perfectly like right onto the subject that you want
Yeah.
and track it
I
immediately.
think of
after,
Leonardo
you
when he
know?
gets zoomed in on. He's like,
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking
yeah,
about?
he zooms
That-
on and kind of smiles at the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's every time something like that happens, I'm just like, I love this. I don't know why, but I love it. It's perfect.
Yeah.
So
There aren't many westerns I watch, but when I do, I enjoy them a lot.
yeah,
I just love the like kind of lawlessness of it all and the dirt and grime of it.
yeah,
It really makes me reflect on how far we've come.
yeah, definitely.
And it's just interesting.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm excited to break it down with you guys. I'm very interested that it is Abe's first watch. So
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what he has to say about the film. But I'm also a little curious to know what your first experience with was the film. After we get into a little bit of the spoiler warnings and synopsis and stuff like that as well. So if you haven't seen Django, it is currently streaming for free on Pluto TV and on Sling. I think I saw Sling TV. I don't know. I don't use that subscription service.
No clue.
But I actually ended up getting this movie in the $5 section at Target, and it was the Blu-ray DVD digital. And I was like,
What
man,
a
that is-
value.
that's an incredible deal.
That's a
Like,
steal.
I think that and like Hereditary was there.
Yep. Midsummer was there for a while.
Midsummer was there for
Mad
a minute.
Max Fury Road.
Yes. And a couple other ones where you're like you go to that section and you get again incredible value for such an incredible price. So I was
Mhm.
like blown away by it. But I remember I picked it up at Target one day just because I remember watching the film once and I liked it and I was like, dude, $5.
Yeah.
You got to do it, right? So I ended up picking it up, and I hadn't watched it since I had bought it. This was the first time I had actually put in the Blu-ray since I bought the movie.
Wow.
And I'll get into it a little bit later. But synopsis of this film is about a former slave named Django who gets intercepted almost, or gets bought by a character named Dr. King Schultz, who is formerly a dentist. And then we come to find out that he is a bounty hunter. And this bounty hunter ends up buying Django's freedom for him and basically tells him, hey, you know of these guys named the Brittle Brothers, from what I know. I'm a bounty hunter. They have bounties on their heads. So I want you to come along with me to find these guys so you can identify them, and then we'll kill them, and I'll give you a third of the money
Mhm.
whenever we pick up the bounty. Django agrees and comes to find out he's actually pretty good at bounty hunting himself.
Oh yeah.
And once Dr. Schultz ends up taking note of that, they end up working with one another for the winter, and they come to find out that Django also has a wife who he was married to at when they were both back on their plantation, and they ended up getting separated because their owners found out that they were married.
Yes.
And so they end up getting separated. So now it's Django's mission as well as Dr. Schultz's mission to get them reunited.
Mm-hmm.
And they end up tracking down where it is that she's at and try to infiltrate it and rescue her. And now when I say it like that, it kind of like almost has the same storyline as like Shrek. Where you got like
Yeah, now that you
you got
mention
the
it.
princess who needs to be captured or needs to be rescued, but she's captured. She's held in some area that's incredibly hard to get to, so you got to go through hellfire and all this stuff to
Mhm.
get her. But it doesn't matter about how tough it was to get her because she was worth it,
Mhm.
But yeah, the movie is incredible. It's a great watch. I would say it is for mature audiences.
It is.
So the movie's rated R for blood, gore, language, nudity, a brief nudity, I would say.
Yeah, I
But-
don't see much.
But it is, besides all of that, a great film.
Yeah.
And it's not for the faint of heart, I would say.
No.
If you aren't a fan of hearing how people talk in the South and the pre-Civil War era, and how racist those people were, and if that type of stuff bothers you, I would, it rightfully should bother you.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Let's say that beforehand, because I don't want to get anything misconstrued here.
Yeah.
It very much should bother you because of how far we've come from that time. But this, movie is done in a way where they're trying to be accurate to the time that it took place in.
Yeah.
So you're gonna hear, some racist ideology and things like that might make you uncomfortable. And I think it does so on purpose,
Oh, yeah.
to make us uncomfortable, but also to make us really empathize with our hero of the
Mhm.
story, who is Django, and seeing all the adversity that he overcomes, and being able to take, your typical, what you would say like a slave movie, and turning it upside down on its head, where now this guy is no longer getting oppressed. He is doing the oppressing,
Mhm.
and he is
He is
coming.
oppressed.
He is coming back to the people that were on his neck all of his life, and is getting to enact vengeance on them.
Mm-hmm. And he's getting paid to do it.
And he gets paid to do it.
Yeah.
He literally has a quote where he says, "You get money to pay. You get paid to kill white people. What's not to like?" Like, And it's a great film, and I would recommend it. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. We're gonna be talking about spoilers. So if it's something that you don't want to hear, or if you want to check it out for yourself, or if you want to get a refresh, pause it, come back to it, or continue listening, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, with all that being said, Nick, I'm curious as to what your first experience with this film was, if you can recall.
Cannot, obviously. I feel like that's every week. I can't recall. I remember I had for sure watched this before, and I loved it. Never returned to it. I don't think I ever did. I think maybe I watched like brief bits of it here and there, like when it was on, like, you scroll through, you got like DirecTV, HBO, and you see Django Unchained or whatever.
Yeah.
And you click and you watch a couple minutes of it. That's pretty much my history with it. I have a brother who freaking loves it, though, and he's been harping down my neck to choose it or to watch it.
Yeah.
For good reason, obviously. But yeah, that's nothing significant, honestly.
Okay.
A lot of Quentin's movies are new to me.
Okay.
So this one isn't, but it's one of the ones I enjoyed the most, I think.
All right. Yeah, I remember my first experience with this film being very shoddy, because my dad at the time got this this DVD player called ClearPlay. And if you don't know what that is, or if you're like,
I do.
what is that? It's, my dad at the time was really trying to make an effort to like make sure he knew what it was that we were watching, right? And that we weren't watching filth. And ClearPlay essentially was a filtering system. So you could watch a movie and you download filters from this website that you then put on a USB drive and then stick into the DVD player, and you could filter out scenes of extreme violence or sex or nudity or like cussing or things that you don't want your kids to see on a film. And this man had the bright idea to rent Django Unchained and say, let's filter out all of the excessive violence. Let's filter out all of the cussing. Let's filter out all of the potential nudity or sex scenes that might happen in this film. So that movie for me, when I watched it, was like 30 minutes.
Really?
And when I watched the film, I was just like, I don't even know what happened. I can't even really say that I watched the movie because like I got cut like hard cuts, bits and pieces of like small little bits of narrative, and like I never really got to understand what the movie was actually about.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and so
At
I
that
remember
point, just don't play it.
Yeah, exactly.
I just looked up Clear Play right now to see if
I know. I'm looking at it right now too.
And some of the stuff on there, like I'm thinking, like, how are you gonna watch this? Is Extraction 2.
Pretty much all violence.
All violence.
Yeah.
That's 10 minutes you're gonna watch.
I get it. I mean, it's a cool service. It makes sense. But
Yeah, it makes sense.
It just is. There's no. We talked about this before with the whole rapping on the radio.
Yeah.
It's just like no, just don't listen to it, or like just don't even watch it. Like there's no point in watching it.
Exactly. But that's the thing is I think that's where my dad messed up because it only furthered my curiosity.
It's like the whole like reverse psychology thing where it's like, oh, don't have that. You want it even more.
Yeah. And I was like, I want to know what it was that I missed. And so it only
because the parts are so good.
Yes. So my curiosity only got further, and I ended up watching the movie with myself and my friend John at the time. We ended up getting together and watching Django, and I remember just being like, "This movie is crazy," at the time, and just thinking it was wild. But again, actually, it's probably the first Quentin Tarantino movie I ever actually watched that I was exposed to.
Really?
Besides Pulp Fiction.
Wow.
Has to have been actually, because when I watched Pulp Fiction, it was on my phone, and I remember being like, I hear a lot about this Tarantino guy. What's everyone talk about? Pulp Fiction. Okay, let's watch it. Not even thinking about Django. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So Django was probably the first movie I was ever exposed to with Tarantino.
That's crazy. Especially thinking about the violence too. It is like over the top.
Yeah, but it
graphic.
works. No, but it's so good because it's so satisfying.
When you think about who he's ending,
no, all of them. Anybody who dies, I like.
Yeah.
It's nice to see.
Yeah.
It almost made me think if that's realistic in a way. Is it? Like
No.
I've never seen like a kneecap get shot out. I don't know if it would like
splurt blood.
Just go on Reddit.
No, it's definitely not realistic in that aspect, but I think Quentin is very knowledgeable in the fact that like he knows that this is a movie. And that like I think of this this news clip of him where he's in this interview and people are reaming him as to why his movies are so violent, and he starts getting like sassy. And he goes, because it's just so fun, Jan, and starts like giving them attitude and stuff. And he's like, this is the movies. We're in Hollywood. We got to make things, we got to make a spectacle for people. We got to make things larger than life because real life is boring, and just goes on this whole tangent about why it does what he does and all this stuff. But yeah, if you're looking for realism in this film,
somewhat here, somewhat
it's
not.
somewhat here, somewhat not, like you had said. If you're looking for realism in like a slave movie, go watch 12 Years a Slave. Like that is a heart-wrenching depiction of the time that America took place in. And if that's what you're looking for, if you're wanting something that is more historically accurate and true to what it is that did happen, go watch a movie like that. This movie does have true depictions of slavery here, but in regards to the outlandish violence and just the dramatics of everything here, it's going to be a little bit more can't think of another word but outlandish.
Mhm.
You know, it's just going to be crazy and more hyped up. But that's just because we got Quentin behind the wheel here.
Yeah.
So. All right. Well, with all that being said, go ahead and get into our first category here,
What's
which is our favorite scene.
Yeah, what's your first favorite scene? Don't tell me. Intro.
It sort of is actually. Like I even love the actual intro where like we open up in this desert and the song comes in. You know, you just hear Django, and like the title pops up
It's
across
so
the screen, and
sick.
you see this chain gang kind of walking around, like no shirts, no shoes, just got like bottoms on, and are just walking around this chain gang with these two guys on horses, herding them around essentially. And my favorite scene starts whenever we get introduced to who Dr. Schultz is. And, you know, we're watching this chain gang walk around in the night. It's cold from what we can tell. You know, you can see their breaths. They're, like, covered in, like, rags. And they just keep walking in this, like, I can only imagine, like, freezing cold mud and their bare feet.
That's what I can't imagine, is bare feet.
Yeah. And, you know, they're just trying to make it to wherever it is that these guys are taking them. And we encounter like a light in the distance.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys on the horse are like, "Who is that? State your name, state your business, blah, 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 blah." And, you know, we end up coming up on this guy on a little horse-drawn wagon who, like, seems like
Yeah, dude.
you know,
With the
with a little flowing, like, swaying tooth
Dude,
on top of the cart.
to me it just destroys all like.
Seriousness.
Yeah, I look at that. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's like goofy kind of.
Yeah, but and I think it disarms you in
It
a
does.
way to look at the guy and be like, this guy wouldn't hurt a fly.
Same with the guys on the horses. They're probably like, who the heck is this guy?
Yeah.
A dentist. All right.
Yeah, and so, you know, he eventually comes and states who he is and says, "I am Dr. King Schultz. I am a dentist, and I am just making my way through here. But I have to ask you guys, are you so-and-so?" And so they're, you know, eventually these guys get curious, and they're like, "Who's asking?" And he was like, "Well,
Speak English.
Yeah, and so they eventually get into a dialogue with one another and essentially say that, you know, I've caught word that you may have, you know, you may be in possession of a slave that I'm wanting to look for. He knows somebody that I, you know, am trying to get a hold of. Is there anyone by the name of Django here?"
Yeah.
And eventually you hear someone in the back say, "My name's Django." And he can't tell who it was really because they're all lined up and kind of just, you know, got their heads down. And eventually he kind of goes up and is kind of looking at all of them and passes him and comes back and he says, "Is that you? Are you Django?" And he says, "Yeah, that's me." And the crap pops off like out of nowhere, out of the scene, it feels like. And I'm kind of forgetting how it gets there in this point. But eventually Dr. Schultz says, you know, he wants to buy Django so that way he can, you know, go on his way.
Mm-hmm.
Guys are giving him grief saying he's not for sale and yada, yada, yada and all this stuff. And eventually point the guns at him and tell him to get going so that way.
I love this. He's so proper.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Sir, are you sure you're threatening me with a weapon right now? Are you positive?"
Yeah.
Like he's really making sure that he's in his legal bounds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then once he gets confirmation with the what did he call it? I think it was like 6 other witnesses.
Yeah.
Then he goes,
Yeah.
So satisfying.
Yeah, and the way he does it too is cool. Like he's got his lamp on him, and he darkens the lamp, and you just see the silhouette of this guy just go. Tsh, tsh.
kills a horse.
Yeah, freaking shoots one of the guys, pops one of the guy's horses in the freaking dome,
Yep.
and it falls down on top of the guy and crushes his leg.
Mm-hmm. He's like, "I'm sorry, I didn't want to do that,
Yeah,
but I had to."
yeah,
That's one of my. That was my first bro moment. Actually, was. I said, "Shoot," seeing the. I wasn't expecting the bat. I read it wrong. Sorry, I wasn't the dentist expecting to be.
The dentist to do what? To kill him?
Such a BA.
Oh,
I'm reading my notes and I wrote something that I shouldn't have wrote, and so I was struggling.
yeah. I even think Jamie Foxx here looks what you were going to say. Like he looks so sick in this movie.
Especially too,
Especially like when they show this close up of him and you see just this like
You see a
scar
scar, and he's just
down
looking
his
forward.
face, and like whenever they like unfree him and he's walking away and he goes
like, isn't
and
that
you
so
see,
sick?
like you see like not only like his scarring from being whipped on his back, but also just how like muscular
yeah.
he is, and he looks just so sick
Yeah.
immediately. Like they do a good job of making him look good in
And
this film.
they make him look good, and they also make the people on the horses look like absolute chums.
Yes.
Because that one guy dies, and as Django's going to get the coat off the guy because it's freezing, he steps on the horse and hurts him even more.
Yeah.
And I love the scene when Django puts it on, gets on the horse, and they're about to leave, and the guy comes up and he goes, "As for your freedom, I'm gonna give you have two options basically. One, you can go and carry this fool back to the nearest town,
Which is like 38 miles in the opposite direction.
and be good with that. Or two, you could take these keys, free yourself, take the rifle,
Bury him deep enough so that way no one will know. Take your rifle,
and
go on
head
your
north.
way.
Head
Go
north.
to an area where they'll be more kind to you.
Yeah, or I don't know what he says, but he says
Yeah.
if they're any astrologically inclined, that's the North Star.
That's the North Star.
Yeah, and I love how it makes him look like a chump because they all are like, it's the obvious option is two.
Yeah.
And they ride off, and all of a sudden you see the guy on the horse is like, "Now, fellas,
We can work something
we
out.
can work something out."
Take me to
fellas."
a doctor. We'll get fixed up. I'll get you guys your freedom. It'll be good.
It is so embarrassing and
Yeah.
so like hypocritical of this
Yeah.
guy.
I also even love too, like a little small detail about Dr. Schultz, who's masterfully played by Christoph Waltz. The little detail of him like talking to Django and him having the rifle,
And then he just
and then him
hands him-
giving it to the guy behind him and just like, "Will you hold this, please?"
The guy's like,
yeah,
What did
just
he
like
do?
holding a gun.
Yes.
And my immediate thought was like, if I don't know this guy, guess what? Turning it on you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, get me out of these shackles and let me go. But he doesn't. And just letting Dr. Schultz do his thing. And I think it's because he can tell that this guy is different,
Mhm.
and that he can tell he's not trying to get Django with any sort of malintention or anything like that. But seeing these guys like free themselves and turn on this guy is so satisfying as well. And like watching them ride off and then hearing like, "Guys, please," and then hearing, is so good.
It's the only obvious answer,
Yeah, it is.
and I would expect nothing less if I was in that situation too.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my first favorite scene. is
Okay.
ultimately them getting introduced.
That leads into my next favorite scene when they get to the nearest town. I forget the name of it, but they go in and everybody is looking at Django on a horse and not even fathoming what is happening because
Yeah.
that's just I think it's illegal.
To them, they say it is.
Right?
It's
Yeah.
illegal for a black man to ride a horse.
And everybody is eyeing him down.
Yeah.
And I even love the Dr. King or Dr. Schultz is like, what is everyone looking at? Like he doesn't even comprehend the cultural shift that he's making.
Yeah.
Is so funny. And my favorite scene starts when they get to the bar.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how it's framed, and I love the pacing of it is perfect.
Yeah.
Because they get to this bar, and the dude's up there. He's not looking at him, and he's like fixing a light or whatever. And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, gentlemen. I can't help you. The bar's going to be, it's not open yet. It'll be open in a couple hours. I can't do much." And he's real friendly, kind of
Yeah.
like just normal barsman. And then he looks and he sees it's a black man in his
Yeah.
bar. And he's like, "What the f are you
Yeah.
doing here?" Like,
Yeah.
immediately aggressive.
Yeah.
And they're saying like, "Hey, we're not going to leave. We want a beer." And he basically tells them, "Go and get the sheriff first before you get the
Before you get the marshal.
Yes, before you get the marshal, go and get the deputy first." And we're thinking, why?
Yeah.
They're basically just going to take Django back. This
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And I love the pacing of it because he leaves, he runs off, and then now Dr. Schultz is like, "All right, now we got to be our own bartenders,"
Mhm.
and he's making their beers. They look so
Dude,
sick. Don't they look delicious?
They look good.
Yeah.
Like I wrote that on a bro moment. I was like, that beer looks good.
And the way he like scrapes the top
goes like,
off and it's
like
falling over.
it looks. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I even love too when he hands it to Django. It's
He's
like
never
a,
had anything like that before, so he kind of looks at it and takes a sip and is like, What
Yes.
the heck? This is weird. You know.
It's like a form of like power, or like a form of like entitlement. He's getting back slowly.
yeah, he's becoming
A human.
A human. Like
Yes.
when no one would treat him that way, and he's
Yes.
getting treated like a regular person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which feels good, and it leaves them time to really, because he's gone running, and they're gonna
Yeah.
come back at some point.
Mhm.
But it's perfect pacing where he can sit down and be like, "I'm a bounty hunter.
Yeah.
Do you know what bounty hunters are?" And he explains what his job is and how he's you know, like
a reward.
He's like, I exchange corpses for cash.
yes. And I love it too, because he even says like, I'm really not a fan of the slavery system,
Yeah.
but I'm in a bind now. Like I kind of have to use it to my advantage.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's really has that inner turmoil, and he's like, so instead I'd like to make an agreement.
Yeah.
He said, if you help me, I will give you the earnings, because
Yeah.
you know what they look like. I
Mhm.
don't know what they look like. I'm a bounty hunter, and I think it's what, 7? No, that's the next bounty. It's
I forget
3
the
brothers.
total, but it's the Brittle brothers,
Yes,
and
the
he
Brittle
says that he'll give
brothers.
him like a third of the reward.
yeah, it's absolutely great. He
Yeah.
says like, you'll help me, I'll give you money, and you'll be free.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more of a, you're my slave, but it's like, you will be my confidant. You will be my deputy, pretty
Yeah.
much.
My
And it-
valet.
Yes, my valet. Yes, I love that. And it's a perfect timing to where the people come back, and the sheriff's like, all right, enough.
Yeah. You
enough
guys want to
messing
come in here
around.
and cause trouble in my town? Why would you guys want to do a thing like that?
Yeah.
Kicks
And
him
they
out.
go outside, and it's that famous pulls the gun out,
Yeah.
and he dies instantly, like a Assassin's Creed kind of deal.
Yeah.
And Django's like, what are
Yeah.
you doing? Can we just go?
Yeah.
And I think, is this the time where he's, oh no, he tells the bartender, now you can get the marshal.
Yeah. And he eventually is running out there calling for the marshal.
Doesn't this feel like a Red Dead Redemption 2 mission?
Dude,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, it does.
It does, because the marshal's like, I want 2 gunmen on that roof, 2 gunmen on that roof, 2 gunmen in those windows. And it's like
Yeah.
it's a
It makes-
Western shootout scene, like peak scene.
I think he even says something like, now, like, you guys better come on out there. We got 100 barrels pointed at this doorway, and it's the only exit. Come out with your hands up, and we can talk, you know. And Christoph Waltz's character is like, he's so good. And he's
The
like,
fact that
I am ready to walk outside. I'm going to assume that you, being a gentleman of the law,
Yep.
you are going to, allow me my day in court, and you're not going to shoot me in the street like a dog. And he's like, you mean like you did our sheriff here?
Yes.
He's like, precisely, just like I did to your sheriff. You won't say, I want your word that you won't shoot me down in the street like a dog. And he's like, all right, you've got my word.
Yes.
And they eventually walk out with their hands up, and he gives them this whole spiel about how, like, the
We are
reason,
bounty hunters.
yeah, he's like, the reason that I killed this man is because I'm a bounty hunter, and I have a handbill in my pocket here, if I can grab it, that states that, I am within my legal bounds to kill this man because he was operating under a fake name.
Yes.
And
It was $200.
Okay.
I remember.
And he was like, and this guy was operating under a fake name, and he, was wanted for horse carriage robbery or murder
I
or
think it was
whatever.
murder.
And now I need to, fulfill the rest of my contract to take his body back to the people that I got this handbill from, and also technically, you guys owe me $200. So they like give him the handbill. The marshal kind of looks at it and is like, "What?
That's him.
Yeah, this is him, I guess. Yeah, I can't argue with this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try to get this guy paid." And everyone just kind of like eventually just starts lowering their guns
like,
and walking away. And yeah, it's
Completely disarms the situation with his words.
yeah,
That's
You don't
what I was-
normally see that in westerns.
No,
Yeah.
and that's what I was gonna say. Is something that I really liked about Dr. Schultz was because he had the I want to say he had the gosh dang it, in Skyrim when you rank it up all the way, what's it called?
speech,
Yeah, he had
speech to 100,
he had speech to 100.
or in Fallout it's charisma.
Yes,
Yeah.
charisma even better.
Yeah,
And he just could persuade him with the words and just trust him,
yeah.
It
which
was-
is wild.
He's a smooth talker. He's the silver-tongued devil
Mhm.
that he accuses
Yeah.
Django of being.
I also feel like it's because he kind of had an accent, so they wanted to hear him out because he wasn't an American.
Mhm.
Yeah, you can tell he's got like a German leaning.
So that's why I
especially
feel
the
like
way
they
he
also
talks.
kind of would let him talk.
Yeah, it's a great scene, and I truly do think that Christoph Waltz just steals.
He
it.
sells his character so
Yeah,
well.
he steals it here, and he does a great job doing it.
Yeah.
Any favorite scenes from after that?
No, actually, yeah, Django training and shooting, which is after that scene, and he's telling him he wants him to be his valet now, and at this point he's telling him, but we gotta make sure your aiming's right, and I like it because he it's during the winter, builds a snowman, and he goes, shoot those carrots, and shoots the carrots and shoots the eyeballs, and super good, and you finally get to see him like pick an outfit.
Mm-hmm.
That is
And this is,
powerful.
Yeah.
and it's like,
The outfit
He's like, you told me I get to pick my own clothes.
that's what he was so hyped.
Yeah.
This blue suit that he fixed is like
Ridiculous.
Looks like Austin Powers.
it does. He freaking does.
But he kind of rocks it.
Yeah, he does. He does.
pulls it
with this
off
like
good.
little white like tie sash thing looks
Yeah.
so sick.
He looked good.
Yeah, I love him.
And again, you see him winning.
Mhm.
And again, we're automatically rooting for this guy.
Yeah.
And seeing him here and seeing that such a big moment for him, that was awesome to see.
Yeah, I love it too.
Yeah.
And yeah, even just the simple them talking in the clothing store and being like, whenever we go out here to this plantation to hopefully find the Brittle brothers, we're going to be playing a character,
Yeah.
and you're going to be playing the character of my valet, and you can never break character, because if you do, then people will know something is up, and we might potentially die if we do break character. And yeah, just him giving the freedom to be able to be like, you pick what you want to wear,
Mm-hmm.
and that will be good enough for your character. And Django coming in with this like all blue, like I don't even know what to call it. Like
It's like a formal.
sash? Or, I don't know.
yeah, I know it's based on this painting called like Little Boy in Blue or something like that. It's like a very iconic painting, is where the outfit comes from. But he looks sick in it, and like seeing him
He
on the
looks
horse riding into this plantation, and eventually going up and meeting this guy who he wants to be called Big Daddy.
Oh.
Yeah, is just a whole bromo in and of itself. But my next favorite scene from here is actually when they get to this scene, this area, and they find out that potentially the Brittle brothers are here.
Yeah.
And the way that we come to know that is that Dr. Schultz plays the owner for a fool and says, I come here looking to potentially buy one of your people here, and I've heard that you've got great ones, so I would like to come in here and make a deal with you. And he's like, "Oh, I'm not selling." And he's like, "I've got 5,000 reasons that I think could make you say otherwise."
And he's like, oh.
He's like, "Oh, well,
These
then in
are
that
hard."
case, okay, yeah, come on in. Let's come and talk. Let's do business."
Mhm.
And I think it's super funny. Like whenever he's telling one of his girls to take Django out and say like, "Hey, you need to treat Django as a free man. He is, he's not a slave. This man has his freedom. So take him out and show him the whole farm and the plantation, and just treat him like you would any of our other guests." And she's like, "You mean you want me to treat him like he's a white person?" And he's
"No,
like,
no."
he's all, "No, that is not what I said to do." And she's like, "Okay, I don't really know like what it is that you mean here. Like
Uh-huh.
you don't want me to treat him like he's one of us, but you also don't want me to treat him like he's one of you. So how do I treat him?"
He says something dumb too.
He
like,
says some like
know that-
newspaper
yeah.
boy.
And he's like, that newspaper boy, how you would treat him, blah, blah, blah. Treat him like that, and eventually they go on to get a tour of everything, and Django ends up pulling this woman aside and says, "Hey, I'm looking for these 3 people. Their name's Brittle. Have you ever heard of them?" And she's like, "No, I've never heard of them." He's like, they could be operating under a fake name or something like that. One of them looks like this, one of them does this, one of them looks like this. And she's like, well, that kind of sounds like the people we have over here. And he was like, can you show me one of them? And eventually, she's like, yeah, look, they're right over there. And she, points over to a guy who's on horseback, and he's got this eye patch, and he's sitting there watching everybody in the field. And, he pulls out his little telescope and looks over at him and recognizes that's one of them. And we get a flashback to whenever him and his wife are, before they're separated, they were getting tortured by these brothers.
Whipped.
And his wife is getting whipped, and Django is sitting there pleading saying
please
like,
don't.
please don't do this to her. She, she's made for the house. She cannot be out here and, working out here in the heat and doing all that stuff. If you do this to her, she's not going to be like eligible anymore, and she won't be able to earn her keep around here or anything. And it's just going to make things harder for us. Please don't do this. And they end up going through with it anyway. And we get a line from one of the guys that, Django ends up getting on his knees and like essentially begs for his wife to please stop. And the guy turns around and to him and says, I like the way you beg, boy. And, our flashback, comes back to reality. Whoop, there goes Rabbit.
I was just thinking that.
Our flashback comes back, and we're now in the present with Django, and he starts walking over. And that's when we get to see that these same guys are now doing it to another person. And, they're tying her up to this tree. She's fighting and, trying to get away as much as she possibly can. And, he eventually intervenes. And I don't know what it was about this scene, but like, first off, like feeling the stakes and like him trying to come and stop what it was that was going to happen felt like insanely high. And like the music is going too, like it's like these violins that are just going, just like making the tension feel like it's getting even higher, and he's trying to get there in time, but still not, make a big spectacle of himself at first. And eventually, he comes over there, and right as they're about to like start going to town on this poor woman, he stands there and says, John Brittle. And, the guy kind of turns around and looks at him, and this camera, kind of pans in and zooms and like frames Django perfectly, and he's standing there just with his fists clenched, and he just looks so powerful and like so worthy of redemption.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know what it was about this scene, but it like seeing him in that state, like brought a tear to my eye. Like, and just seeing him like be able to stand as like a free man now, and knowing that like you guys have no power to hurt me anymore. And I am going to enact what you did to me onto you. And, he eventually, has this dialogue with them, and, does the same thing that Christoph Waltz's character ended up doing to the sheriff there, and, pulls out the little pistol, shoots the guy in the stomach, and, he eventually kind of looks at him and just falls over, and then he gives him...
whips the other guy.
Yeah, but before he does, he gives him a retort that, was a callback from whenever we saw the flashback, which originally we heard him say to Django, I like the way you beg, boy. Now he's dying, bleeding on the floor like a pig. He comes up to him and says, I like the way you die, boy. And it just feels like
so good,
so incredibly satisfying. And then, he turns over to the other guy. His brother is like fumbling around with his gun, trying to get it and, to point it at him. He goes over there and throws him on the ground and grabs the whip that he and all of these people were once whipped with, and starts giving him a taste of his own medicine and going to town on him and just letting him have it before unloading like 6 shots into this guy with a revolver. And, eventually people, start coming over and are kind of, worried about what all the fuss is about. And eventually, Dr. Schultz and Big Daddy come over, and they're like, what's going on here? What's happening? That's when eventually, Christoph's character eventually says, like, we're bounty hunters. these guys.
Same, yeah.
Yeah, same monologue. These guys are operating under a fake name. We're within our legal right to, kill these guys and blah, blah, blah. And then we eventually see that the last brother is still in that field,
Take them
starting to run away. And so, and this was kind of one of the moments in the film where we get to see a little bit of the humor in it as well. And he's starting to ride off, and he was like,
Are you sure that's
he's
him?
like, are you sure that that's Elias Brittle, I think is what his name is? And he says, yeah, I'm sure. And he goes, you're positive? And he goes, I don't know. And he goes, you're not positive that that's Elias Brittle? And he goes, I mean, I don't know what positive means. And he goes, it means that you're sure. And he goes, yes, I'm sure that that's Elias Brittle. And as soon as he says that, it leads the shot.
Takes him out.
Boom, shoots him off of his horse. We get this incredibly beautiful shot of blood splatter on the cotton that he was once overseeing, and his body just hitting the floor. And eventually afterwards, it kind of comes back to them after they took their shot. Christoph's character almost kind of looks surprised that he got it, and then Django comes back with, I'm positive he's dead now.
Those, I have to say that gun is extremely accurate for a gun for that.
Yeah.
Dude, that thing,
Yeah.
and
It's just
the
good.
little iron sight almost looked like a
Just like a little bar.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was like a
Looks like a China lake.
yeah,
You're
that's what I was thinking. That's what it looked.
Yeah.
It was so skinny and long nosed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, just that whole confrontation scene and him getting some of his revenge that right then and there is just incredible. I loved every moment of that scene.
Yep. You had another one too.
No,
yeah?
actually, my rest are bro moments. I have a lot of bro moments.
Oh.
Okay.
So I'm actually done for favorite scenes.
Okay. You got another favorite scene after that one?
It just goes straight to the end for me.
Okay. What about the dinner? Did you like the dinner?
That's when they're still under the guise of being the Mandingo fighters.
Yes.
Like when they're actually at Candyland.
Yes, and they're having dinner, and up until the point whenever Django gets to actually see Broomhilda again for the first time.
I think it's good.
Okay. So up until this point, we find out that Django's wife Broomhilda is being held by a man named Calvin Candy, and he operates on this side of Mississippi. And in order to get in with this guy, they find out that he likes what's called Mandingo fighting, which that whole scene is just a bro moment
Yeah.
for me because it's just
Big
it's
bro.
brutal.
It is terrible.
But essentially, Mandingo fighting is taking two of the slaves that you own and making them fight to the death, which is awful. But that's the type of guy that this character is,
Mhm.
and he is just a despicable person, really. And they end up, trying to get in with this guy so that way they can eventually rescue Django's wife. And they get in under the disguise of saying I kind of want to get into Mandingo fighting myself. I hear that you got a lot of great guys. Why don't you let me come to your property and you can show me some of them, and I will pay you an outlandish amount of money, $12,000 for one of your guys. And, eventually he's like, oh, that's a crazy offer. I've got to take him out here. So eventually they get invited out to this guy's property, who is played by Leonardo DiCaprio. And they find out that Broomhilda is in fact staying here, and that she tried to run away the day before, and she got locked in the hot box.
That box
That's a
is
bro moment.
Yeah, that too for me. So we find out that she's there, and the entire time Django is just fighting the urge to just take
not
his
pull his
pistol out
gun,
and
yeah.
just kill everybody
He's like
here.
reaching for it, and he's like,
Yeah. Yeah, and I love the intentionality there of showing that it's really taking everything in him not to just go balls to the wall and freaking just start going crazy.
yeah.
But
I mean, the whole mission he's on is really testing him as hard as possible. He's even subjecting himself lower than a slave.
yeah,
He is pretending to be a black slaver,
yeah,
which is the lowest of the low.
yeah, and going as far as to like be like a race traitor.
Yes.
And like treating your own people as lower than you,
It's
which is
crazy.
like incredibly low.
And
for
it's
him.
affecting it, but he can't show it.
Yeah.
He can't show it, and it's
Yeah.
tough. Yeah.
Yeah. But eventually we end up getting to this dinner scene where, you know, this business proposition is going to take place. And before that, Dr. Schultz kindly requests that they send Broomhilda to his room because
She
he
knows some
hears
German.
that she speaks German and he is a native German. And, you know, Calvin kind of gets the idea that like he wants to kind of have his way with Broomhilda, but that's not his intention here. Eventually, you know, she gets brought into his room and she's kind of thinking the same thing,
Mhm.
you
Right.
know. And he eventually starts telling her like, you know, it's so nice to hear somebody speak German, you know, it feels good to talk in my native tongue.
Mhm.
And I'm only going to talk with you in German because I don't know if one of Calvin's guys could be outside listening to us
Listening in, yeah.
right now. So from now on, we are only going to speak in German, so that way they cannot understand us if they are out there. And eventually he says, like, I have a friend here who he's traveled hundreds of miles to come and see you, and he's standing right there behind that door. And so eventually, you know, her curiosity gets piqued, and she opens the door, and we see this like silhouette of Jamie Foxx standing in the doorway, and his opening line to her is, "Hey, little troublemaker," and I just love
Dude,
it. Like
I was cheesing. This is
I-
a bro moment for me because
yes.
it's just such a good moment. But I was cheesing because, like you said, she's just standing there, and he says those lines, and this is what I wrote. Literally, I wrote it like this. I said, "Bro has so much riz, made her pass out."
Yeah.
Because she sees him, how she's holding a glass of water, and she's like, I don't know,
Spills it.
it, and just passes
Faints.
out. I
Yeah.
mean, in all respect, yeah, like she I would have never thought you would something like that. Like, you think you're gonna see your significant other after being auctioned off to separate places? Like,
Yeah.
that is crazy. So yeah, I see how she reacted like that.
Yeah. And then, you know, getting a little bit of like comedy to come in with it. Dr. Schultz being like, Django, you silver-tongued devil, you.
Mhm.
You know, it's super funny. But eventually after that, they end up having dinner with Calvin and his posse and his sister and all of them, and they're just trying to come to an agreement on purchasing one of these guys for these Mandingo fights. And so eventually they, you know, come to find out that they are going, you know, Dr. Schultz wants to buy one of the guys who they call Eskimo Joe. And eventually tensions are just high throughout the entire scene.
They are.
And like I have to say too, this scene is like almost like 20 or 30 minutes long.
Yeah.
But eventually tensions continue to rise and rise and rise. And this is also where we get introduced to Samuel L. Jackson's character. And whenever we arrive at Candyland, and he is almost like he is the character that Django is playing. Like he very much like thinks that he is better than all of the people that he is above, because, you know, he gets treated better and he, you know, serves in the house and all this stuff, and is almost like Calvin's like right hand man almost.
Mhm.
And he very much believes that he is better than all of the other people that he is surrounded with, and that causes Django and him to like immediately not like one another, because like immediately when the guy rides up, he's like,
What's he doing?
"Who's this guy doing on this horse? Who does he think he is? Tell him to get off there," blah blah blah, and all this stuff. Meanwhile,
Dude,
you know,
you're-
yeah, this guy is like, "You could be my brother," you know, like
it's crazy.
we are the same. We shouldn't be doing this to one another, but here we are.
He's just full of hate.
Exactly. And eventually there are certain glances that get, you know, exchanged at the dinner table to where Samuel L. Jackson's character sort of thinks that potentially Broomhilda and Django know each other. And so he sits there and pokes and prods, and she says, "No, you know, we don't know each other. You're scaring me. You know, this isn't us. We don't know each other," and all this stuff. And from up until this point, things are going Dr. Schultz's way, because Calvin is none the wiser.
Mhm.
They're about to go through this deal, and he then mentions, like, "I've also, you know, want to inquire about potentially purchasing Broomhilda because
He can't even finish that though because he gets interrupted.
yeah, and he eventually says like I want to purchase her because I just had such a good time talking in my native tongue, and it would be nice to be able to have somebody around who I can just talk with in German and all that stuff. And right as he's bringing up that idea, Samuel L. Jackson's character comes in and is like, I actually, we're having a problem with dessert in the kitchen. You want to come and talk to me real quick? And they have this whole little debacle. Eventually just says, meet me in the library. And they, kind of walks away, and that signals Calvin to be like, actually, I'll be back real quick. Let me go see what's going on. So they go back and eventually meet in the library. And that's when he drops the knowledge that, like, I think these two people know each other.
They're not here to buy Mandingos.
They are not here to buy Mandingos. They are here to buy that woman. I think that Django and them have a relationship with one another, and they are not here for any Mandingos. They are here for her.
Yeah, he's absolutely correct.
Yes, and that signals Calvin to just completely spiral. And if we haven't seen this guy be nasty already and incredibly just racist and downright disgusting, he turns it up to 11.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he finds out that he's being duped. And this is where we get that iconic scene where he brings out the skull of one of the guys that used to take care of him and tries to explain phrenology to them.
Pseudoscience.
Yeah,
stupid.
which is insane. But
he's trying to justify. He's saying like, "Oh, you guys are built.
You
for
guys
servility.
are different." Yeah, and
like you are built to be servants.
Yeah, and he essentially says that like this guy took care of me, and if you look right here, there are these 3 dimples in the skull that are most commonly associated with servitude. And I bet you that if I bashed open your head and cut you open, that you would have those same 3 dimples as well as Broomhilda here, and blah, blah, blah. We're different, yada, 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 all this stuff. Just preaching all this just ignorance. That is, again, completely pseudoscience. And the tensions continue to rise and rise and rise and rise. And this is where we get that iconic scene, where, tensions are just getting higher and higher and higher until, his character comes down and like slaps the table. He crushes that glass under his hand, and the famous story goes that Leonardo actually cut his hand on the glass, and they continue filming, and like the blood that comes from his hand is actually from his real cut.
Mm-hmm.
That like when he smashed that glass, and he stayed in character the entire time. And then they end up using it like later in the scene where like they kind of bandage him up and they rub blood all over Broomhilda's face.
Not his real blood.
Not his real blood,
No.
but they end up.
I thought it was honestly because it does. It doesn't seem like there's any cuts.
Mhm.
And then when he like rubs her, I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
That's got to be like breaking a law or something because if that's his
seriously.
real blood and he's rubbing it all over her face.
Yeah.
No, but the fact says it's not real.
Yeah. I would hope so. That's for sure. But yeah, that's where we get that whole scene. And I honestly I love during this entire time, Django is still trying to hold his composure. And like, even like whenever they're trying to like, especially Samuel L. Jackson's character is trying to get to Django, and like, they're making Broomhilda like undress in front of everybody and show her back. And like, you get certain scenes where like it pops down to Django's hip, and he's like about to grab his gun and is like, I'm like seconds away from blasting these guys because they're just degrading my wife like in front of everybody. This is ridiculous and uncalled for. Eventually, things continue, and Dr. Schultz ends up saying like, I will also purchase Broomhilda, and then Calvin says you're not going to purchase her for $500 or anything like that. You're going to purchase her for $12,000.
Mm-hmm.
And so, eventually they strike a deal. They end up signing papers and all of this stuff. And then this is where like all hell breaks loose.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to take it from here.
It's ridiculous. It's very satisfying because they're in like this very disadvantaged position. They got all their weapons taken away. There's 1,000 guns pointed at them. But it's still somewhat going well because they're getting what they came for, which is Broomhilda. You see Candy going and signing the check off. He takes the money from him. And as soon as the deal is about to be over, he straight up says, Candy or Calvin says, this deal's not done unless you shake my hand. You've got to shake my hand. If you don't, we're going to kill you before you leave here.
Yeah, he says he goes in the South, that's the way you finish the deal.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, I insist you shake my hand.
And I love it because you see Dr. Schultz throughout this whole thing, like kind of, really having this very strong conflict, building and building and building. First, it was seeing the guy getting torn up by dogs, and now it's like just he's just overcome with rage, guilt, whatever it is. Yeah. He's like, I don't want to shake this fool's hand. He's a piece of trash.
Yeah.
He's an awful winner. I hate him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes up, and as he's about to shake his hand, he turns to Django and he goes, what does he says?
He pops him first.
Oh, yes, he does.
And then he says, I'm sorry. I couldn't resist.
I couldn't resist. He pops him. And you see freaking Samuel Jackson go, ah!
Yeah.
What does he say?
He says candy or something dumb.
He almost reminds me of that clip of that guy going,
he had the intervention going, It does. He seems so pathetic, too.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous. And then you see Django take the gun and go pow pow and popping them all.
Yeah.
And it's just an insanely violent, gruesome scene that happens.
Yeah.
Him
Just carnage.
And it
But
almost
it's so satisfying.
it is. It's very satisfying because these are all racist people. But it feels like a John Wick scene.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where he's like
Yeah.
catching the clip from another guy's gun and putting him in. But like he's taking the old and he's going pow 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 pow.
Yeah.
And it's just all of his training is coming out and he's succeeding over these guys and it's like guys are pouring in and he's still killing them. And you see like there's a gun right over there and he's all out. He has to crawl and then he's using bodies to protect him and it just feels so epic in this moment. And like he gets to a moment where he's really cornered and then you just see just guys pouring in.
Yeah.
He's at like 100% complete disadvantage, just getting shot at
from every angle.
Every single angle. And then you hear Samuel L. Jackson saying like, you idiot, stop shooting, stop shooting. And he says like, Django, you better come out. We've got your wife. If you don't come out, we're gonna kill her.
Yeah.
And he basically is like, I don't care what you believe, but you better believe in 10 seconds. If you don't come out, she's dead.
Yeah.
And then you see Django look up at her and he gives himself up.
Yeah.
Which I think is it almost seems like the end of the movie, kind of.
Yeah,
like,
and this is where I thought the film was ending actually, because I remember I thought this was like the climax of the film.
It
was
seems
thinking,
like it.
This is where it was going to end, and this is he shoots his way out. That's at least that's what I remembered. And then whenever we find out he gives himself up, I was like, what? Well, how much longer of the film do we have?
Yeah.
And I remember I checked the display and there's like 20 minutes left,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, what else is happening? Like I'm completely forgetting.
Totally forgot.
Like this is
as I was watching that, I was like, wow, is this how they're gonna end it? He loses? That's crazy. Like I forgot. That's so crazy. He loses. But no, it goes on. Yeah, he gets captured and he's hanging upside down in that cell.
Yeah, and that's a brum moment for me, man. Just
I feel like
straight up just see his nuts, like just hanging upside down, dude. I remember seeing that and I was just like, yo, that's that man's balls right there, bro. He's just hanging there.
I think this is when you get to see the true brutality, the true evil of Samuel Jackson's character. I think his name is Steven or something dumb.
Yeah.
Steven, you see, he's like, all these white men have the most boring punishments
he's
for
like
you.
all they want to do is just, play with your fun parts.
Yeah, he's like,
but
that's no different than what they do everyone else.
yeah,
And he's like, I've got something worse.
yeah,
Sell them to these guys who treat them worse.
yeah. These miners.
You're not going to die. You're going to be in the mines working until your back breaks.
Yeah,
And then once you can't work anymore, they'll just kill you and throw you in a hole.
And that will be the story of you. Like that will be the story of Django.
The vileness this guy has to have to think about that
Yeah.
is just jaw-dropping.
Terrible.
It's terrible.
Yeah. But eventually he ends up getting brought to these guys.
Yeah, he gets sold to the people.
Mm-hmm.
I forget their names.
I
there's
forget as
just
well.
some random Australians, I feel like.
Yeah, there is an Australian there.
Yeah, well, they all are.
Oh, are they all?
They all are saying mate,
Oh, okay.
which I thought was strange. But
But we get to find out who they are And
Yeah.
it's Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, one of them is Quentin.
Is he in every movie he
No.
directs?
Yeah.
No, he's not in everyone.
I feel
He
like
doesn't make a
every
cameo
movie
in
I've
everyone.
He doesn't? Okay.
No, but this one he does. I was surprised too.
I kind of hate him.
When we saw it, Alexa and I were
He's
watching
on
it.
the horse. I was like,
Yeah, Alexa and I were watching and we saw him. We were like, "What the heck, dude? What is he doing here?"
yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny.
It also is tying back a quote that Dr. Schultz tells Django, where he says, you know, you got to keep your first bounty poster, because that is really it's gonna give you
It's
good luck. And as he's sitting there tied up in chains, he's separated from the other slaves,
Yeah,
and he says, like, there's $11,000 there, 11,500
yeah,
for you guys for the taking, and it's legal. All you have to do is go there
Yeah.
and take it.
mm-hmm.
And he's like, he's basically swindling them.
Yeah, and
Just
telling
like-
them like the job's already been done. You just need to go there, pick up the bodies. You get 11,000. You give me 500, a gun, and my freedom.
And I want to be the one to kill him.
Yeah,
He is so smart.
He
Yeah.
got
He's-
the
he's-
persuasion from Dr. Shell.
Yeah, Dr. Schultz, he's really
Schultz.
taking a thing or two from him.
yeah,
And he's like, do I look like a slave? And he's like, I got the thing in my pocket. They even go and talk to the slaves to say, like, did this guy ride in with the horse with the white man yesterday?
yeah.
And they say, yeah. And they're like, well, was he a slave or was he free? And they're like,
No, he wasn't a slave.
he wasn't no slave.
Yeah, and then they said that man was a bounty hunter, and he killed everybody.
Perfectly
Like,
cooperating.
yeah,
Perfectly cooperating a
yeah.
story without them even knowing.
yeah,
It feels so good. And they're like, we're stumbling onto something big here.
yeah,
And, you know, they're completely bought into it.
Yep.
And he's like, the dude's like, okay, why don't you take off your holster, give it to him? You know, and
They're so
they
nice
got
to him.
dynamite.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we're making some money right now. And right as he gives him the gun and he's putting the thing on, he just goes, bam, bam, bam.
dude, so good.
Like right away.
Yeah,
No
Seeing-
hesitation.
Seeing Quentin Tarantino's character blow up was pretty cool too.
yeah, yeah. Quentin is carrying like a saddlebag of dynamite, and he shoots that freaking dynamite saddlebag, and as soon as he hits it, you see him just go.
And then
Blown
that's
up.
like an iconic shot too. It's just all like debris and dust in the air.
Yeah,
And then
and you
My
see him
God,
in the
it's
smoke,
oh,
just standing there. Oh, it's so good.
It is
so
so
good.
Yeah.
I love it. But yeah, he eventually frees those guys that were once held in captivity, takes a horse, a gun, and just rides off, back to Candyland to try to, enact vengeance one more time and get Broomhilda.
Yeah, and again, this whole ending scene is the perfect ending for this movie.
Yes, seriously.
He's-
Everything up in flames.
Yeah, he's got the complete upper hand,
Mhm.
and the real, the real antagonist is Candy, but then it's also freaking Steven,
Yes.
because he's the one. He's like the even more. I would dare to say more evil.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like, it's-
definitely.
He's awful. He's
Yeah.
terrible.
And while they're distracted with a funeral for Calvin the next day, Django takes that to his advantage and goes to the house and rigs the whole thing to blow.
Mhm.
But you don't come to find out until you're getting a couple minutes into the scene, and they're eventually all walking back, all somber, singing "In the Sweet By and By," singing hymns and all this stuff. They eventually walk in, and as they're singing, Django kind of emerges from the top floor and like finishes the song, and everyone kind of looks at him and is like,
who the heck is this?
"You got a lot of balls being here right now," and eventually he's kind of
Liberating.
he's kind of like looking at everybody, and they all kind of start pointing their guns at him, and he straight
He
up
takes him out.
he's got the Red Dead Redemption dead eye,
Yeah.
where he just goes ding 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 ding.
He
Like-
even says like he's like, "What you're gonna do to me with my fun parts?" And he
Yeah.
shoots him there.
Yeah, shoots him and right back where he got him.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's just if it couldn't get more satisfying, it just keeps going and keeps going.
Shoots the dude in his kneecaps.
Yeah, and like it's even funny in this aspect too when like Laura Lee, the sister, is like standing in the doorway, and he's Django looks at one of the housemaids and says like, "Tell Laura Lee goodbye," and she's like, "What?" And he goes, "You need to tell Laura Lee goodbye." She goes,
Goodbye.
goodbye, and she goes, "Oh," kills her. She flies away. And it's eventually just him and Steven and Broomhilda and those housemaids. You know, eventually he tells them the housemates to leave. It's just him and Steven. And Steven, you know, comes up to him and like sees all the new people that this guy just killed, and he goes, "I count 6 shots. Ain't no way you're gonna do any more." And he goes, "I count 2 guns." You know, like pops him in his knee real quick. And or no, he says beforehand, he's like, you know, out of all those ways that you mentioned torturing me, not once did you mention kneecapping. And he goes, boom, shoots him in his knee.
Do you think he said that because he was like claiming the? Because I understood from what I got from that, I thought Samuel L. Jackson was faking his knees,
Oh, I don't know.
and that's why he never mentioned it.
Okay, I'm not sure. I just thought it was, you know, he mentioned, you know, talking about what it was that they were going to do to him, but they never mentioned doing anything like this.
Yeah.
So then he does it to him, puts it in both knees. This guy's screaming, you know, calling him every name in the book and just wanting to get revenge. And he's like, "Oh Lord, please let me." He's like, "Let me live through this so I can kill this man." Like, this is terrible, blah blah blah. And my favorite freaking quote comes down to one of the things that Django ends up saying at the end here, and it's a quote that Calvin actually says during the dinner scene, and Calvin says something along the lines of like, Django is, every now and then you find like a 1 in 10,000 of these guys here, and Django is one of those guys. He is, you know, 1 in 10,000. He is just that rare, and because he's that rare, you should keep him around you, you know, and all this stuff. He's just an interesting guy, blah blah blah. And Calvin kind of ends his dialogue with Stephen saying that quote where he says, "Every single word that came out of Calvin Candy's mouth was nothing but BS, but he was right about one thing. I am that one dude in 10,000." You know, kind of walks away, lights the dynamite that, you know, we see now that he rigged the whole house to explode, and walks away from the explosion, cool guy like.
Yeah, he does.
And
puts his sunglasses on.
Yep, and watches that thing explode. And
yeah, feels good.
Yeah, it does. It feels incredible. Like, it's even funny too whenever like it's right as it's about to blow off, Stephen is going, "Django, you uppity son of a," and then boom, blows up. You know, he's sitting there watching it with the cigarette in his mouth. You see the orange glow from the explosion happen in his sunglasses. You see Broomhilda in the back on the horse kind of like clapping for him. You know, eventually gets back on the horse. And
oh, she's going like, she knew the whole plan. She's like covering her ears.
Yeah. And eventually they get back with one another. They get on the horse and he starts showing off.
Dude, I love that. I immediately was like, dude, this guy is the Rizzler, bro. He's showing her up with the horse.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. He for real is just showing off at this point, and she's just like, ooh.
And she's for it. She's here for it.
Yeah,
and he's got her papers too.
Yeah, and they, you know, ride off into
the
night with each other, and hopefully, you know, to an area where they can both be free. And
great ending.
Yeah, this ending is just the perfect little bow for everything that this entire story was, and it just ties up everything so perfectly. So
it was not what I expected. Like it was or like the movie in general. Like this movie is amazing. I did not expect it to be something like this.
Yeah. Well, now you know. So I guess with that being said, if that's all of our favorite scenes, do we want to move into best quote here?
Yeah, I feel like we said most of them.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've got "I like the way you die, boy."
Yep.
"Hey, little troublemaker." Another one that I liked actually was this scene isn't a bro moment for me, but it's whenever they are they plant the cart and all the guys are around there trying to capture them.
Okay.
And you know, they go to shoot whenever they shoot the tooth and it blows up and they all start running away. Django says, "Look at him run," and Christoph Waltz's character says, "Cowards tend to do that." And it was just a smart little quote there that I was like, I like that. That's perfect.
Got to see the D is silent.
Yeah.
That's a classic.
It's like a reward.
It's like
Yeah.
a reward.
Yeah, that's like entered
It's crazy.
the
That's
meme.
like-
yeah,
yeah.
that's just a meme now. Is, hearing that sound on TikTok and then seeing that it, comes from this movie is kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would have never thought.
What about when Calvin says, "Well, gentlemen, you've had my curiosity. Now you have my attention."
Yeah.
I thought that was I feel like I hear that all the time.
Yeah, definitely. I even love like the last little bit of dialogue between Calvin and Dr. Schultz, where he starts to confront Dr. Schultz and he's like, "I think you're upset with me because I got the better of you," and then he says something to the effect of, "I think you're a bad loser," and then Dr. Schultz retorts with, "And I think you're an abysmal winner," which that was just really good.
I even like the quote too. I don't have it actually quoted, but he even says like, "I would tell you like Auf Wiedersehen, but that means goodbye. I'll see you later.
Yeah.
And I will never see you again. So I'll just tell you,
Simply goodbye.
yeah, just goodbye."
Yeah.
And I love when he's dead. Like he goes and sees his dead body again. Django tells him
says,
like,
"Auf Wiedersehen."
"I'll see you later. Like
Yeah.
I'll see you again." Pretty much. I
Yeah.
just felt like I was like,
Yeah. It's, yeah.
You got
wholesome.
that bond.
Yeah.
"Got the bound."
Any other best quotes here?
That's it for me.
Okay. All right. If that's it for the best quotes, let's move into bra moments.
You said you had a bunch of them, maybe.
Yeah, I do. I feel like we already talked about them too, but again, I wasn't expecting the dentist to be such a BA. Like the way he presented himself, the way he was just like, "I'm a doctor." Like, would never had expected for him to be a bounty hunter and be so cool like that.
Yeah.
I was really thrown off when we get to the plantation and the first one, I think, and they called the owner Big Daddy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like, I think it's just adding on to like the power trip
Yeah.
thing of it, where he wants to be called that.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
I heard it, and I had to rewind it actually because I thought I didn't hear it right. And then I heard it, and I was like, "No way, she actually said that." I was like, "That's so weird."
Yeah.
This one was crazy. Is when we get introduced to Leonardo DiCaprio's character while they're fighting, and it's towards the end of the fight. The guy is winning, and Leonardo DiCaprio's character just goes, "Blind the guy, blind the guy."
Dude, it's tough.
Yeah.
It
And
is
then-
It's
tough.
brutal.
Oh my gosh! Literally gets his fingers and just
Gouges his eyes
gouges
out.
his eyes out.
Yeah.
And he gives him a hammer.
Insane.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's gruesome.
and then the last one that I thought was kind of wild was in the dinner scene. I saw it and wanted to point it out. Was there's a like marble statue of people fighting
Mm-hmm.
in the back, and I saw that and I was like,
Yeah.
bruh,
This is like,
they've been doing it for a while.
yeah, his claim to fame.
It's his
For
business.
lack of a better
Yeah.
word.
It's his literal business. Is
Yeah.
people like this.
Yeah.
Bro moment when the guys, they're on their way to the Candyland, and the guy is straight up saying like, "I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I can't do it anymore."
Oh, D'Artagnan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they straight up. He's like, "I bought you for $500. I expect 5 fights."
Yeah.
I'm like,
He's like, "I've only got 3.
he's like, "Who's gonna reimburse me for this?" It's
Yeah.
just, it's tough to hear. And then he freaking kills him
Yeah.
with
By letting him get mauled by dogs.
Yeah, that is just
Insane.
Terrible.
that's tough.
Yeah. Hard to watch. Yeah. What
I-
about the whole like mask scene?
I
Yeah.
thought it was funny.
It's comedy.
It is comedy. It reminds me of one of those like spoof movies where
Yeah.
they take a really serious and like gut wrenching topic or
Yeah.
scene, and then
and they make him seem like
Idiots.
incoherent idiots.
yes, it's just
And
it's
I think
funny.
Yeah, and I think that's done to like really take the power away from people like that. You know,
Yeah.
where they're supposed to be representing the KKK, or I think what they call themselves the Regulators, which is like supposed to be an early group before the KKK ever became a thing or something. But like, it really does take the power away from them, and that like these guys are dumb,
Yeah.
and like they're sitting there complaining about like, I can't see crap out of this mask. This thing sucks. I can't breathe. Blah, blah, blah.
The guy
Sounded
that
like
guy's like,
people.
watch my wife cut 30 bags for you fools.
He's like, you guys are all some ungrateful sons of... I ever heard shit. My wife stayed up, cut 30 bags open
It's
for all
so
you guys.
dumb.
Yeah.
We
He's
also-
like, you don't ask me or mine for nothing. You guys suck.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
also get to see another bro moment. Is we get to see Jonah Hill in this
Yeah.
movie.
Jonah Hill's like, yeah, these bags really do suck.
Yeah.
So
I
are we
even-
wearing them? Are we not wearing them?
Yeah. I even like to whenever one of the guys was like, can we all agree that the thought of the bags was nice? Yes, we can. Can we all agree that they could have been made better? Yes, they probably could have. Do we all like the thought of them? Yes, but unfortunately, they do
Let's
kind
do
of
it
suck.
next time.
We should make it better next time.
Yeah.
And he's just trying to like spare everyone's feelings.
Yeah.
You know?
I even like too when they actually are riding into the caravan thing.
Yeah.
You just hear people going, I can't see this
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
It's
There's
so
so many
dumb.
people.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous and stupid.
Yeah.
And they get their comeuppance.
Yeah,
pretty
they straight
good.
up get blown up.
Yeah, I
Which
think it's
Is
genius.
satisfying.
Yeah.
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 Another bro moment for me was seeing Hildy get taken out of the hot box.
Yeah, that and
Yeah.
carrying her in a wheelbarrow, like it just feels so disrespectful. It's
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah.
Humiliating her too at the dinner table
Yeah.
and making her just get undressed. And it's crazy.
Yeah. Last one for me was Quentin making a cameo and then getting blown up.
Yeah. That had to be my last one too.
Mhm.
Okay. Any other bro moments here before we move into another category?
Mm-mm.
All right. Let's move into facts with the bros.
Yeah, let me hit you with the budget real quick. And to make this movie, it took $100 million, which I think is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Opening weekend made $30.1 million. Gross for U.S. and Canada was $162.8 million, and gross worldwide was $426.1 million.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read somewhere too that I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is Quentin's
His-
most expensive movie.
Yeah, I read that. It's his most expensive one.
Wow.
Yeah. This movie is a Oscar winner actually, and ended up winning the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay and Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, Christoph Waltz took home the Best Supporting Actor for this film as well as Inglourious Basterds.
Yeah. Speaking of his Oscar win, he goes up to have his final speech, and it's really wholesome. He says like a lot of thank yous to all the people. He was going up against a lot of really strong performances too,
Mhm.
so it's surprising he won. But he goes up and he says thank you to all these people, and then he says like, I stole some of the words of my character. He says sorry, I couldn't resist.
Mm.
And if you know, that's what he says before he dies.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a little callback, a little
Yeah.
homage to his character.
That's nice.
Yeah, it just felt like a little nice little bow.
Yeah. In regards to Jamie Foxx being the Rizzler on the horse, it's actually his own horse that he uses in the film.
That's kind of cool.
It makes sense.
Apparently he has a horse named Cheetah, and he uses it in the film, and he had got it 4 years prior to filming as a birthday present.
Wow.
So he's got some experience on it.
Yeah. On the topic of Django, did you know that Denzel Washington was considered for the role of Django?
I did not.
And he was deemed too old.
You know, and that makes sense.
It does.
It does make sense because also like I see him and I think there's a new Equalizer coming out.
Yeah,
Yes.
Equalizer
And
3.
he's like old in that movie.
Yeah. I'd also saw that Will Smith, Idris Elba, Chris Tucker, Terrence Howard, Michael Kenneth Williams, and Tyrese Gibson were also all considered
Tyrese
for,
Gibson would
for
be kinda
Django.
cool.
Yeah. And Quentin actually, I guess, ended up writing Django with Will Smith in mind for the role.
Wow.
But eventually Smith's agents and they told him he should do it, and he eventually ended up accepting. But Will Smith ultimately decided to pass on the role because he had the idea that Django should be a love story and that it should be romantic, and Quentin was not going to be told what to do with his movie. And so he ended up not giving the role to Will Smith and ended up giving it to Jamie Foxx in this aspect. And Jamie Foxx was completely on board for whatever it was that Quentin wanted to do. And honestly, I have to say, I think if
Jamie
Will Smith
Foxx.
was in this movie, he would have ruined it.
You think so?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think Jamie Foxx is
Jamie Foxx does kill it.
Yeah.
He is the perfect cast
Yeah.
for Django.
It would be really difficult to see anyone else pull off what he did.
Yes.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine.
It's kind of crazy because I only know like 2 movies that Jamie Foxx is in, which is Ray and The Kingdom.
I know you talk about it. What, he's in Jarhead?
Yeah.
He is a Jarhead.
And he's in the new he's in the new Spider-Man.
Electro. Yeah.
he's
I
Electro.
don't think I've seen that one.
No Way Home, he's in, and Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, he's in quite a bit.
Yeah. Speaking of casting, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who plays in all kinds of stuff, was supposed to have a minor role as Jano here, but he had to drop out because he was doing Don John in 2013.
Oh, interesting. I actually read something here too in regards to Leonardo DiCaprio, whose role in this film was apparently the first time he had played a villain since the movie The Man in the Iron Mask came out, which was in 1998.
Wow.
And we've kind of known that, you know, he was really uncomfortable with just how horrible and explicitly racist his character was. However, Quentin told him that, like, you need to be as menacing as possible, because if you don't take it all the way, people would hold it against you forever, and like you would never hear the end of it if you didn't like fully go in on this thing. And that alongside a confrontation that he had with Samuel L. Jackson in regards to the use of all of the racial slurs that his character uses really put him over the edge to kind of like embrace that character and do what needed to be done for the role, and ultimately get the performance that we did here.
Oh yeah.
Which honestly, I mean, like he steals the show. Like some of the times whenever he is on screen, like he's menacing. He's menacing, and he's like captivating almost, where you were just like, I feel like I can't take my eyes off this guy, because if I do, he's going to try something. You know, like, you know, he has that aura about him. So
yeah, speaking of hesitancy to, you know, choose the roles or whatever, Christoph Waltz, he originally turned down the role. He was like, he says it's too tailored to his persona. And Quentin Tarantino literally would not take no for an answer. So he did end up accepting it, but under one condition. His character had to be pure and never once act in a negative or evil manner. And Quentin Tarantino finally agreed to that and accepted.
And I think that was the right way to go, because
perfect.
he is the best character. Like he's so good in this movie. I really enjoy him. A nice little another cameo that we can mention here, actually. The Mandingo fight that happens in that scene where the other person that is watching the fight, other than Calvin, who's, you know, cheering on the fight, is actually actor Franco Nero, who is the original Django that he plays the original Django that came out in 1966, and he plays that small little role there. And then whenever he gets up to leave, you know, he goes over to the bar and asks for a drink, and then asks Django his name, who he in turn tells him it's Django. And he goes, Django, how do you spell that? And he goes, D-G or D-J-A-N-G-O. The D is silent. And then he responds with, I know, and walks away. So it's kind of like a little, you know, homage to the old Django right then and there. So
yeah, very nice.
Something that I thought was kind of funny was the man playing poker at the end of the movie. Their playing chips are severed ears from slaves.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought it was, I
the
saw
guys at the, whenever he goes, D'Artagnan, mother, and he goes in there and starts going, bow, 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 bow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with the guy in the bathtub.
Yeah, seriously.
That's wild.
That is wild. Another fact here in regards to the soundtrack. We haven't talked a lot about the soundtrack here.
No.
But Ennio Morricone, who just recently passed away, I think last year, he's done iconic scores like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, The Thing. He's got tons of work under his belt. He actually did the composition work for this film as well.
Oh, wow.
And after working on this film, he had said that he would probably never collaborate with Quentin Tarantino ever again, since he didn't like the way that he places music in films without coherence, and that he never gave enough time to the music. However, Morricone and Tarantino ended up collaborating again on The Hateful Eight, which then would earn Ennio Morricone his first ever Oscar for Best Score.
Really?
Yeah,
Look at that.
Oh,
yeah,
you didn't even see? That's crazy.
yeah. I thought that was pretty wild.
Mhm.
This one actually holds a record for something not so great, unfortunately. But this movie holds the record for the most uses of the N-word or some variation of it in a movie, with 116 uses.
Oh my
Jeez,
God.
That's
a
insane.
lot.
It's a lot.
I had read too that Calvin Candy's character says I think 34 of those
That's
N-words.
crazy.
Yeah, I was watching a couple of interviews with the cast and Quentin actually in regards to like the backlash that this movie received when it first came out, because a lot of people were upset about the violence of it and the use of that word in particular and just the overall connotation of the film. And his argument was always in regards to how much it was used. He always responded with, "Oh, I think I used it much less than what they would have actually done in the South."
True.
Like that word was used way more in the South during that time than I ever used it in the film.
Yeah.
And it was done with purpose and never malice or anything like that. So
Looking at the facts, I'm sorry if I cut you off.
Oh, you're good.
I'm just looking at them. This one's kind of interesting. It says this film was release was delayed in China by their government censors in 2013 because they requested that they turn the blood a darker color and lower the height of the splatter of blood.
Interesting.
it's kind of strange.
Well, that's kinda
like it's kind of like
strange.
weird stipulations to put on it.
Yeah, why would you want the blood darker and less splatter?
Maybe to make it less realistic. I don't know.
No clue.
It's interesting.
That's
No
interesting.
clue. I don't know.
Yeah. The last one that I have actually is from another interview in regards to some of the more brutal scenes in the film. But apparently in an interview, Quentin Tarantino had stated that originally the Mandingo fight scene and the scene with the dogs were originally longer and more violent than what was shown actually in the real cut.
I don't want to see that.
And he had said that he had felt like at some point that he was going to traumatize his audience. So he decided to cut both of the scenes down.
Yeah,
Good.
I don't need to see that.
Yeah.
I don't.
I think it was the smart choice to
I don't
want to
see that.
Yeah.
Like, I can only imagine the what he would show, and it's nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That no.
yeah.
Good choice to cut that.
Yeah. So that's it for facts for me if you guys are done here.
That's it for me too.
Mm-hmm. I'm done.
Okay. What doesn't work for this film?
I watched this movie in standard definition, and that's just, it sucks. I really cheated myself because
I think standard definition just sucks. in
it's
general.
honestly, I used to think that it was okay, and it's not.
But yeah, and that's the thing
It's
too.
not.
Like,
It's not even because of the movie.
well, and I was gonna say like with the technology that we have now,
It's-
higher definition TVs, things like that, it just gets worse as the technology gets better.
It's true. It is so true. I'm also like blessed to have like 4K stuff and Blu-ray stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So when I don't have that, it's jarring. And the reason I bring this up is not the movie's fault. It's the only copy I had. I probably should have rented it. I normally do that. Like with Goodfellas, I did that. But I didn't. It's because I didn't know at first. I thought it was Blu-ray at first because the disc, you open in, there's 2 discs. Well, it was on the right side, which is normally where the Blu-ray is. And then it had the design of the Blu-ray, I thought.
Oh.
So I was like, okay, I put it in. I didn't think anything of it. So I got about halfway and I was like, this looks like trash. This looks like so bad. I couldn't understand why. And then when I paused it, my old DVD, it says SD DVD. And I was like, what the hell? I didn't know. And I saw it and I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. And the only reason I bring that up is because I couldn't engage myself in the movie. I couldn't get lost in the movie because I was constantly
thinking about the quality of
thinking
it.
about the quality and thinking that everything's so blurry. It looked really flat. It looked like there was no dimensionality, nothing was popping to me. And that led me to feel the length of the movie.
I see.
The length of the movie was long.
245.
Super long. And the only reason I felt that is because I couldn't get lost in the movie. So I was like, at a certain point, I was like, "Holy crap, this movie's still going! It is so long. I forgot how long it is." And I didn't have that problem the first time.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's a multitude of things that led me to just be like long. And then I think to myself, like, I felt like it was long, but then I don't know what to cut. There would be nothing to
Exactly.
cut.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm at like an impasse.
I'm at a stalemate.
Yeah, I don't know how to fix it.
Yeah, I get you.
I don't have anything. This movie is amazing.
Yeah, I don't have anything for what didn't work either. I really do think every piece of this movie does work.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest.
Well, take us into the next category.
Yeah.
All right. For what does work, let's start with just the incredible writing, storytelling.
So
you can bank on that
I
when it comes
understood
to
everything. Yeah.
yeah, when it comes to something that anything that Tarantino ever puts his name on, you can almost guarantee that you are going to get a great story with incredibly real and fleshed out characters, and you're going to get some amazing direction with his own flair on it, and he does it all in his own way, and I don't know how he does it, man. Like he writes just such believable dialogue, and he so well actualizes these people that are in his head and translates it onto paper, and then works with actors who are good enough to make those characters come to life. Yeah. And like again, like the acting here as well is just incredible. Like everybody that comes onto screen steals the show every chance they get. Jamie Foxx, I'm captivated by him every time he's on screen. Same with Christoph Waltz. Same with Leonardo and Kerry Washington.
Yeah.
Like they all are so good in this film.
Yeah, you can't forget Samuel L. Jackson either.
Yes, even Samuel
Jackson
like
is one of the best characters
moments
in this movie.
He has moments where I am just gut busting laughter. Like and even moments where I'm like, not only am I laughing at this guy, but I'm also just pissed at him because of just how evil his character really is. And this is something that could only ever come from the mind of somebody like Quentin, and it truly is just an incredible story, and it's done so well.
Something I really enjoyed was, I feel like sometimes Tarantino movies can be a little complex for me. This movie, I understood it from the beginning to the end. I knew exactly what was happening. Again, it goes to back up what you're saying. It's just the writing, and it's just the direction that he has.
Yeah.
And this is a movie that I am willing to watch again because I understood it, and that's why I think I enjoyed it so much because everything made so much sense.
Yeah, and I think he has so much source material to pull from because this guy grew up on spaghetti westerns. And I feel like Django also captures the feel of those old spaghetti westerns in the fact that, like, when you go back and watch movies like that, the western, like, always encapsulates this idea of a hero who you are empathetic to and that you can identify what their motivation is and know why and want them to succeed. And Django does this perfectly. And I think that's why it works so much as a Western, but also as like a little bit of like a dark comedy and a drama and an action film. Like it works on so many levels, and I do think it's just because of Quentin and just his love for cinema and film. He truly knows what he's doing.
He does know what he's doing.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. Apart from that, incredible score and soundtrack.
Yeah, it throws me off to hear Rick Ross and Tupac.
Yeah, but it also works.
Yeah,
like
it does.
there are like slow montage moments where all of a sudden you hear Rick Ross come in and you're like, what the heck? Like, this is set in 1858, but now I'm listening to Rick Ross. Like, but it kind of works. This is sick. And then like it juxtaposes that with Jim Croce, I Got a Name, and they're doing like this whole like montage scene where they're riding in this beautiful sky, sun setting, snowy mountains, and riding on horses, and you hear, roll that down highway. Like it's beautiful. It's perfect. And again, you can always rely on somebody like him to just have incredible music and great soundtrack choices, but also to work with somebody like Ennio Morricone and you know, just level up the film just one step further.
Yeah.
So yeah. Last but not least for me, incredible cinematography.
Yeah, there is some crazy shots in this film.
Like I said, I love the like crash zoom ins, zoom outs, old spaghetti western
do love that.
style, tracking shots, beautiful stills. I can only imagine the type of stuff that I'm going to see on Film Grab when I'm
Dude.
Looking at them right now, and they're so
Dude, some of them, honestly, they look like they could be wallpapers.
Like this one right here.
That is... And
That
then
one?
you even go to the next one.
The next one.
Like,
Yeah.
that one and the
Like-
next one are just so captivating.
Yeah, and like those are the scenes where we're hearing "I Got a Name,"
Mhm.
and like you're listening to these songs set against these beautiful backdrops. It's incredible. I love
Yeah,
it.
wow. I look at those back and forth, I'm like, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
That's so-
makes me want to go somewhere like that.
Yeah, definitely.
hop on a horse and go.
Yeah. Anything else that did work for you guys?
No, I think
No,
the things
I
that
think
worked
we-
well worked phenomenally.
Okay. Who wins this movie?
That's hard.
This is hard. I want to hear what you say.
I'm gonna say Jamie Foxx.
Jamie.
I think of Django. I'm thinking of Jamie Foxx
Well,
and
yeah.
saying, "I like the way you die, boy," and just going ham on some people.
Yeah, I gotta go Jamie Foxx. I love Samuel Jackson. Samuel Jackson's right there with him.
Good.
Yeah, he
But
is.
Jamie Foxx kills it for me.
Yeah, I will say like a hair. It's Jamie Foxx for me, but a hair. It's only by a hair. Christoph Waltz. I think
he is awesome.
he's so good.
Yeah,
It's really hard to separate the two. They're our
Yeah.
partner.
yeah,
They're a partnership.
yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's they both are just fantastic together.
I think of it this way, like, especially when it came down to me thinking that Jamie Foxx wins the movie for me, I put myself in like this mental situation where I was like, what if I ever met Jamie Foxx? And I told him what I liked him most in. Immediately, it would be Django,
Yeah.
and I would immediately be like, I loved you in Django. Then right there, I was like, he's got to win it for me. He's killing it for me.
That's
That's
fair.
a good way to think.
Yeah,
If you
So-
ever see the actor, what actor? What movie
Yeah.
would you say?
yeah,
Like, oh, bro, if I saw Jake Gyllenhaal, I'd be like, dude, you in Prisoners?
yeah.
Oh, bro.
I'm depressed.
Exactly.
Oh, that movie.
All right. What are some themes for Django Unchained?
Sometimes revenge is okay.
Good old fashioned vengeance.
Yeah.
I am
Freedom.
Yeah.
freedom.
Yeah. I didn't know if there was something to be said about like Dr. Schultz being this dentist character and like killing the guy who
Runs Candyland.
who runs Candyland.
That's
and-
all it is. It's nothing about what we just said. It's all a meta narrative of
Go to the dentist.
yeah, go to the dentist.
Or he'll come and get you.
Yeah. No candy.
Yeah. Yeah, but I didn't know like if it also had like something to do with that, and like I read really hard into this where I was like, you know, he's the dentist and he goes to Candyland and he kills like the human cavity,
The
like
rot.
like the rot. This guy is literally the lowest of the low, you know, like, and he takes him out, but at what cost? You know, he ends up losing his life for the greater good.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's kind of wild.
I was having fun.
Yeah,
with it,
that's
but,
good. I love that.
Yeah, just a good old fashioned vengeance story.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is and it's fun.
You
like-
and you texted earlier to us that this might be the greatest revenge story ever, and I kind of agree with you.
Yeah, unless another one comes to mind, or like if you know one, sound off in the comments or the rate and reviews or something. Let us know. Hey, you're forgetting about this,
Mhm.
and we might change.
I don't know.
But like
I don't know for another
as of right
revenge
now, I'm
story.
thinking like this might be like
This is recency bias, maybe.
yeah, it probably is, but
But it is
It-
sure is satisfying.
yeah,
Gosh. I can't think of a more satisfying.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, what are we rating this?
I'll go first. I'm giving it a 9.5.
Ooh, well, you brought it to 0.5.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
to.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a 9 flat.
Okay. I think I'm gonna give it a 10.
A 10.
I respect it.
I think I'm giving this a 10.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't
This
blame
is
you.
The only other Quentin movie that has a 10 from me is Pulp Fiction. And I think this is deserving of it. You know another one that I want to revisit is Inglourious Bastards. Just 'cause
I need to watch it. Never seen
I
it.
haven't watched it in so long. I always hear so much hype about it. I would love to go back and watch it. But yeah, thanks.
I bought it, never watched it.
Yeah, I bought it. Never watched it.
My my collection is great, and I just never watch. I'm just like, I have so many movies I just look at the spines of, and I'm like, oh, why, like, and I just goggle over them. But I never find the time to watch them. It's ridiculous.
You got to do it like every Saturday morning.
I know.
I try to watch a movie that I haven't seen before. And this last Saturday, I watched When Harry Met Sally, and I fell in love with it. Like it was great. And like, I don't know, sometimes a great rom-com is fantastic, and I loved every second of it. It got me ready for fall
All right.
and like ready for the holidays, and just being like, man, I can't wait till it gets 70 degrees out so I can wear jackets.
Yep.
You
That's
know?
like half of my wardrobe is all stuff I'm just looking
yeah,
at. I
long
can't wear.
sleeves. I have so
I
many like
wish.
flannels and
Yeah.
like, yeah.
But
I
yeah.
wish. Too hot.
Alrighty. Well, if you guys stuck all the way to the end, we appreciate you.
Yeah.
If you're watching on YouTube, leave us a like, comment on the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification so that way you guys are notified whenever we're uploading videos. And if you are listening on the audio platforms, whether that be Spotify, Google Audio, Apple Podcasts, or anything else, leave us a rate and review and let us know what you're thinking of the show. It helps and lets us know that you guys are liking what we're doing, maybe something we could change, suggestions, things of that nature. If you don't want to reach out on such a public platform, you can go into our episode descriptions and reach out to us via social media or our email address and let us know what you're thinking there as well. So if that's about it, we're going to move on to our next pick for the week, which is Nick.
Yes, this is my pick. It's I'm gonna be picking a 2015 movie called The Lobster.
Oh, so we're sticking with it.
We are sticking with
You're
it.
not
I
yes.
know you were
switching?
thinking about switching it up.
I didn't. This movie has me very interested. It's got Colin Farrell in it, who I absolutely love.
Adore him.
I started it. I need to finish
Do you
it.
believe we saw that guy?
I can't believe it. Like at Universal Studios.
Yeah.
Saw him right there.
Yeah.
In the flesh.
It's crazy.
Blows my mind. But yeah, he stars in this movie. It's supposedly a dystopian future about love, about finding connection, and if you can't,
Yeah.
then something happens
Yeah.
to you.
If you don't have a partner in this world, you die. Or what you think is death, you get turned into an animal of your choosing. And
No wonder why it's called The Lobster.
Yeah.
We gotta see how that plays into it somehow.
yeah, this movie is great. I watched it just randomly one night with Alexa. It was streaming on HBO Max at the time. It still is.
Yes.
And I was like, I've wanted to watch this movie for a while. I've had a buddy that recommended it to me and said that he really liked it. And I love Colin Farrell, and the premise sounds interesting. Like
Mhm.
I would love to watch this, and it's kind of like dystopian sci-fi type feel. And by the end of it, I was so captivated by the movie that like I found myself watching it and then being like, so literally every animal I am seeing in this film was once a person who could not find a partner, and they got doomed to being like, I want to be a squirrel the rest of my life, or I want to be an elephant or a giraffe. And like there's so many avenues that you can take the film, and it's really just about like finding genuine human connection and thinking that I may have had a connection with this person once, but was it ever really real? And trying to go as far as you possibly can to try to find that connection with somebody before you're inevitably doomed to this life of being an animal.
Yeah.
So
I'm excited. I'm very excited for this.
I am too. I'm excited to rewatch. It's a lot of fun, and I'm excited to see what you guys think about it.
Yeah, I'm Ready for it. I forget who the director is. Do I even have that?
Oh man, I'm forgetting how to say his name. His name is like Yorgos Lanthimos.
Oh yeah, Lanthimos.
Lanthimos.
Yorgos Lanthimos.
Yes, he's got a new movie coming out this year actually with Emma
Really?
Stone, which I'm pretty excited about as well.
All right, I would have to see how it goes.
Yeah. So, with that being said, tune in next week to hear what we have to say about The Lobster. As always, this has been the Film Bros Podcast. Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Good night.